One of the things that you hear in dog training is be consistent. But what does consistency really mean? That's what we're talking about today on the McCann Dogs podcast. Welcome back.
So you had an interesting experience you were telling me about, and I thought this would make a good podcast. Let's talk about this on the podcast.
Yes.
So let's jump in.
Last week, one of our friends has recently gotten a new puppy, and the pup's about 4 or 5 months old now, so it's not brand new. But we went for a visit, and it was interesting watching them interact with the pup and the things that I would have jumped on as a dog trainer to intervene with.
Yeah.
So, I kind of looked at it. I thought, wow, like this is interesting as to what a pet owner is dealing with their puppy.
Yeah.
And, how can we help them with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, I have to ask, is this a situation where you were able to offer some advice, or did you just have to sort of sit on your hands politely and let it all happen?
Well, this is more a friend of my partner's. So
Okay.
I pretty much just sat on my hands and let things happen.
Okay.
And, I did the odd time say a few things, but, you don't want to, meet someone new and come on strong.
Right.
If my advice had been asked for, definitely I would have helped.
Yeah.
But, I'm not at that point yet with these people.
Right.
And
this is such a consistent peril for us as dog trainers, right?
Yes.
And I find myself, I have to consciously make the effort to not offer unsolicited advice because it's what I do in my day-to-day life, right?
Exactly,
Is
yes.
not offer unsolicited advice, but I'm so used to just automatically going into advice mode that sometimes it's like, this is more work not to say something than it is if I were just coaching them through this whole thing. But there's definitely circumstances where your advice is not wanted, not asked for, not welcomed. Sometimes it's just because it's overwhelming, right? Because you might start in and then not be able to stop.
Right. And I always think of it like like someone, has a newborn baby and then suddenly everyone is giving them newborn baby advice.
It's like that commercial. There's a commercial out right now for vaccines in Canada, and it's the same thing.
Okay.
Everybody around the people are offering their words of wisdom, and it's like everybody's got an opinion,
right?
But have you checked with the pros? Have you done the actual research, or are you just listening to people's opinions when it comes to vaccines? Like, you really need to you need to know your stuff to make those big decisions. Like they are.
Yes.
Anyways,
so I don't want to come off like the mother-in-law giving advice to the new husband's new wife on their baby, of course. So, that I always think of that. So I, as a dog trainer, unless I'm asked, I generally don't give any advice unless there's something so blatant that I do need to step in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm the same way. If it's somebody that I'm tight with, that I know that, our relationship can handle the strain of me offering unsolicited advice, then I will try to.
Right.
But it depends on the person.
Right. Yes.
It truly does. I've had many relationships in the past that have worked because I don't offer unsolicited advice. So you kind of need to know the person that you're dealing with. Are they going to take that and be appreciative of it, or are they going to be resentful of you offering that advice? So everyone's a little bit different. It's always nice to err on the side of caution. But okay.
Yes. I have one friend who's a dog trainer who will offer unsolicited advice if we're out on a walk. So say we were out on a trail together and she saw someone struggling.
Oh, just randomly.
She will randomly offer unsolicited advice. I have once called out to somebody, let me help you. Another dog had approached them that was loose and they were struggling it was a bad situation. And I said, let me offer you some help. And you got the dog away from them, helped them get their dog back under control. But usually I won't. Yeah. I'll just zip my mouth shut and
I find too, when you're looking at people out on the street that are dealing with problems with the dog, it's so much more in depth that you need to go than to just offer a quick word of advice.
Right, yes.
So, I mean, that's the same idea as turning to the internet for advice instead of going with an actual professional dog training program, opinion, etc. You get these little quips of information and they don't tell the whole story. So people get the wrong idea from those quips of information. Sometimes there'll be memes that come out on the internet and things like that are just like this tiny little piece of what needs to be a bigger explanation for it to really make sense. because those are the things that people are going to make assumptions surrounding if they don't know more about dogs, and it leads them down the completely wrong path. So I'm always concerned about that too. Like, is the advice going to be helpful, or is it just going to be one more sentence on top of a whole bunch of confusion that's already happening?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But this, so this conversation today is going to be centered around the consistency that is necessary with dog training. And we know with dog training that the most important thing is consistent information for the dog. You know, if one day you tell them one thing and the next day you're like, you know what, I'm in an easygoing mood today, I don't mind if you do X, Y, Z. And then the following day, you're a little bit more uptight again, and you're upset that they're doing X, Y, Z. Well, you know, you're really you're harming your relationship with your dog because they don't know how to take you.
Right. I always like to tell students that dogs learn in black and white. Either you can do something or you can do something. Dogs.
Did you say can and can?
You can or can't. You can or can't. Either you can do this or you can't do that. That's yes. They don't have the gray areas. Dogs don't understand gray. Humans can generalize. You know, I might say, you know what, when I'm at my mom's house, I can open the fridge and grab a pop without asking. However, if I go to visit, you know, someone else's house, I'm just not going to walk up and
knock on some random person's door, let yourself in, and I'm sorry, I'm thirsty.
Right, exactly, yes. And go to their fridge and grab a pop. I know I can't do that, but I can generalize that in some situations with some people, I can get a pop or eat one of their candies and they're not going to care. But other people would be very offended if I took their pop and drank it.
You have to stick with the social norms, right?
Exactly.
See, here's the difference, though. If a dog went knocking on someone's door and was like, I'm hungry, the person would be
definitely.
like, I have all the food in the world.
Yes, the finest
if it was a human, this is weird. Go away. The finest food.
Yeah, the finest food. Yeah, someone knocks on my door for food, I'm going to say, yeah, I guess I can make you a sandwich, but a dog comes, I will cook you a roast beef dinner.
Steak. You're getting a T-bone steak because you're so cute.
Right.
What a life.
So, dogs can't generalize. So we need to say, yes, you can do this, or yes, or no, you can't.
Yeah, absolutely. And that should be a consistent thing for them throughout the majority of their lives, really. I mean, sometimes there's an introductory period with things where the dogs don't have the skills yet, so we manage until we get to that point, right? We might, you know, we might carry the dog for a certain circumstance instead of letting them pull us on the leash. We might scoop them up quickly and run them outside to go to the bathroom so they're not having an accident on the floor. Those are things that are going to change as the dog's life goes on, but we don't want to have the rehearsal of the wrong thing.
Right.
And I know that you were saying that there was a lot of rehearsal of bad behavior. So let's dive into that. First off, what's rehearsal? Like why do we care?
Rehearsal is allowing the puppy to ignore our voice and doing what they want to do. So it's repeating the poor behavior over and over again. So the puppy is rehearsing the behavior. So say they're rehearsing jumping at the back door. And we're not interfering with that. And they're rehearsing it. The puppy eventually says, this must be okay to do. Nobody is stopping me. And now it's becoming a go-to move.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we want to do is we want to rehearse the right things. We want to rehearse the things we like because we're creating habits either way, right? So if my dog is rehearsing the idea of moving into the kitchen when I'm about to feed them and they're rehearsing sitting, waiting for their food bowl to be put down. That's a really good thing.
That's a good rehearsal.
Absolutely.
Very good rehearsal.
And I want that rehearsal to happen. So I'm going to encourage it. I'm going to reinforce it. I'm going to let my dog know you get attention when you do that. You get food rewards when you do that. Like, this is a great thing to rehearse.
Right.
The jumping at the back door thing, well, I don't like that. I don't want you scratching the paint on my back door. We need to stop this as soon as it starts.
I've also seen dogs jump at back doors and they open. And now the dog's loose. Yes, this happened. A dog escaped a vet clinic, I heard once. The dog somehow got loose in the vet hall, and then it ran and jumped at the back door. Back door swung open, and the dog took off. And I'm not even sure if that vet clinic ever found that dog.
Wow.
But so
that would be awful.
I don't want my dog to ever think a back door may open when you jump on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and like, we just want nicer manners than that in the house.
Yes, and it's not good. You're right. Not good manners.
Yeah. Well, and if we allow that to continue to happen, it becomes the habit, right?
Yes.
If we if we nurture the habit in the kitchen, that becomes the habit, right? The habit of sitting, waiting politely for your food. We nurture that. It becomes the habit through rehearsal. If we let the jumping at the back door be rehearsed, that's going to become the habit.
Right.
So we end up in a scenario where we're actually allowing the behavior to strengthen because the dog is practicing that behavior, and there's some sort of an intrinsic reward for the dog there, even if we don't get up and go and remove them from the door.
Right.
And a lot of the times, this is where there's some confusion in dog training, because a lot of the times people will think, if I ignore that behavior, it will go away. And unfortunately, that is incredibly flawed, because if the dog is experiencing value from that behavior, whatever the value may be, maybe it's a bouncy dog and it likes to bounce. Maybe it loves jumping and bouncing off the door. There is something driving that behavior for the dog.
Or eventually you get up and open it.
Yep, that could be it too. Absolutely, reinforcing that wrong behavior.
Dogs love to repeat anything that is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And we often, as humans, we think, oh, well, how can it possibly be rewarding for the dog? Well, it just is. You know, dogs are different than humans. It's rewarding for me to sit down and eat a lovely meal. It's rewarding for a dog to sit down and eat a lovely meal. It's not really rewarding for me to jump on people, but it's rewarding for dogs to jump on people. So, I mean, we can't take the human rules and assume that they're going to apply to the dog. Just because there's something that appeals to me or doesn't appeal to me doesn't mean that the dog's just going to automatically fall.
Yes, it's like digging. Dogs love to dig.
Absolutely.
And as a human, I don't think I would find, well, I guess we do like dig and garden, but we have a purpose. Dogs are just digging to make a big hole.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a purpose somewhere in there, but usually it's just one of those behaviors to sort of eat up time and explore. Dogs are scavengers by nature. Some dogs will dig a hole with purpose of like burying something, for example.
Or laying in it.
Yeah, there you go. Bedding down at night in comfort. But for the most part, it's just one of those behaviors that they don't need to do. Right. I really, people come up with all these ideas to give an outlet to the dog for these things, but truly, like, a dog doesn't need an outlet to dig. No. And if they do, ideally, you're not teaching them to do it in your property and in your premises. You know, maybe you go to some rat trials, some barn hunt trials, and let them get their digging nature out there.
Right.
So,
urban rat trials or urban barn hunts.
Exactly.
Where they climb around in hay bales.
And then it's very situational, right?
Yes.
It is one of those things that situational nature sometimes works to our advantage with dogs. So that's keeping it outside of the house. It's not teaching the dog to do it in any particular space. Like, truly, I don't think that there is an absolute need for dogs to dig.
I had one of our first Malinois when I was 20 years old.
20-year-old Swanee's hilarious.
So I was married when I was 20 and had a house, and my husband wasn't a dog person at all, and I came home from, I think, a weekend away with Iggy at a trial of some sort, and there was a giant hole in the middle of our yard, and it was a big hole, and he had let the Malinois, probably about 6-7 months old, dig this big hole over the course of the weekend.
Oh my goodness!
In the yard.
Was he just not watching the dog, or
I think he thought that's what dogs dig holes. I think it just never occurred to him that this might be something that's not good. And I'm like, that's really not good. And I thought, well, we're going to have to get that filled in. And of course, 20-year-old Christine, a priority on her list was not her filling in holes in her backyard. And I remember the weekend after, or maybe even 2 weekends after, I managed the dog, and the dog was no longer allowed to make the hole bigger.
Good.
We had some friends over for a barbecue, and they had a toddler. And I remember the toddler running in the yard, and all of a sudden I heard Dan yell, "Watch out for the hole!" And then this toddler just disappearing into this big hole.
Oh my gosh, it was that big of a hole?
It was a huge hole. It was a ridiculous hole. He had let her dig like over 3 days of constant digging.
Oh my gosh.
And we had it was sandy soil, I remember, so it was easy. It was easy for the hole to get dug. It wasn't like it was clay or anything. But I remember this toddler, like, "Watch out for that." And before he said the word hole, down the toddler went into the hole.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny things that stick with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Well, hopefully you were able to get the toddler out without calling in the rescue crews.
With a rope rescue, Wow. No, the toddler was fine.
Good,
but
good. No worse.
Remember, it was like, I guess we got to get that filled. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We probably should get the kid out of the hole before we fill it, but we should fill that.
Yes. So,
Oh my gosh.
So live and learn. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and
like now I would never. As soon as I saw that first paw,
Well, and that's exactly it, right? As soon as you see them starting to dig at the ground, you just say, hey, what are you doing? No, we don't do that here. You redirect them to something else, and they go, oh, okay, no problem.
Yeah, no big deal. Yeah.
I've never had a dog be like, no, I must dig, I must dig, I must dig. Well, and if they did go back to it a second time, they probably got a little bit of a correction using the leash, because, of course, if we have dogs that do not have reliable habits yet,
yeah,
we make sure we can catch them, because we're getting older and it's harder to catch them.
Yeah. No. So I had to stop that Malinois from digging because she had 3 days of rehearsing the fun.
Oh, yeah.
So it took me, probably a little bit more than I would have had to if I had been present that weekend and said, no, we don't allow dogs to dig. That's not good.
Yeah, no doubt. So out of curiosity, the friends that you were visiting, did they have any sort of house line or a leash on the puppy?
No. So the puppy was free roaming, no house line.
Free range puppy.
Yes. So that was the first thing I noticed and thought, how will we stop this puppy if we need to? Because, of course, we came in and the puppy is not been put away. The puppy is diving and jumping and having this great old time. Okay. And I'm trying to untie my shoes and I have a puppy in my face. And
were they trying to stop it at all, or were they like, yay, our puppy's having fun?
There was verbal trying to stop, which was very ineffective. Yeah. So the basically their voice was white noise to the puppy.
Dear. Well, and we can often teach our dogs to ignore us, by doing that, by trying to use words and commands that the puppy doesn't understand well enough to listen to, and having nothing to back that up is one of the most surefire ways of teaching your puppy that your voice does not matter.
Right.
So
yes, I had a student the other day who was having trouble with a puppy, and it was 11 weeks old, and she had said, we've tried a few commands to keep the puppy at our side.
Oh, okay.
And I said, no, your puppy at 11 weeks hasn't learned any commands yet, and trying a few, the puppies don't respond to English words. Yeah. They don't understand them.
It always surprises me how much people expect puppies to already understand. And, often it is just like that. It's based on, we'll try this command. This command worked for me. This command worked for me. That's often advice that we see on, comments and in social media is, this command worked for me. Great. And it's like, there's no significance to any one word to a puppy.
Right.
Until you have actually taught them that there's significance with that word, and taught them through routine training that helps them understand what the associations are about. There's no magic to any of the words.
And you might think the puppy responded, but maybe it was more the tone of your voice.
Yeah.
It's like, that command worked, but ultimately it wasn't the command. It was suddenly you had an exasperated tone that caught the puppies.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Or if you're in that 8 to 12 week mark, where you have a puppy that's really cooperative, and anything you say, they orient to your voice, right? Yes. You can say, balloons and picnics, and they're like, what's that?
Right.
And they're at your feet looking at you because you're their world at that point, right? Yes. From 8 to 12 weeks, it's a very different mentality for a puppy, and they're sticking close to safety, and they're observing the world, and they're trying to learn their place in it and all of the things. And then when you hit that certain mark, like the 12-week mark, it starts to fail, right? Oh, well, he was coming when he was called. He was coming every time, and now all of a sudden he's stopped coming when he's called, and it's like,
yeah, he never really knew.
Yeah, you're barely even into development at this point, and you're relying on the cooperative nature of an 8 to 12-week-old puppy, and that changes. Right. At 12 weeks old, they start to take those blinders off and go, ooh, look at the big world out here, right? Things change, just like our teenagers, right? We have young toddlers, and then we have young children, and then they turn into tweens and teenagers. Right. And if you think about the differences in your expectation of their behavior, it makes perfect sense because we understand development for humans. But when it comes to dogs, we expect them to be this even keel right from day one. And it's like, this puppy already comes when he's called, which, if you're able to be aware of the cooperative nature of the 8 to 12-week-old puppy by doing some reading and some research beforehand, you can use that to your advantage to create dynamite skills before you get to the point where they start to become uncooperative.
I was just thinking of an analogy. a 5-year-old child is not going to say, hey, Mom, I want to go to the mall by myself. Like, they're not. They want to be with you.
Yes.
So if you're going to the mall, they're happy to go with you. But if you're not going to the mall, they're happy to stay home.
Yeah.
Whereas your 13-year-old child is going to say, Mom, I want to go to the mall by myself.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed. You're embarrassing.
Exactly.
You're so old.
So think of your puppy like that. You know, at 10 weeks, I want to do everything with you.
Yeah.
At 16 weeks, you're embarrassing. I'm heading out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going out on my own mission.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are things we need to take into account for sure. So expecting, and then when you raise the excitement level, so even in, how old was this puppy?
This puppy, I'd say 4.5 months.
Okay, alrighty. So into that that next stage of development. But even a super cooperative puppy, right? That 8 to 12 week of age young puppy, even that puppy, if now you up the stimulation factor and you bring new people into the excitement and they're in the middle of running around and sniffing this person and getting to know this person and, you know, assuming that this puppy is an outgoing, friendly puppy.
Very outgoing and friendly, yes.
Like at that point, you're still souring your commands if you try to use anything.
Right,
like,
yes.
Truly, you want to stay ahead of things instead of allowing the dog or the puppy to go in and rehearse the wrong things. It's so much better to use some management at this point.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that was pretty lacking considering there was no house line or anything.
Right, there was
puppy.
And last week we talked about door manners and greeting manners.
Yeah, we
and
did.
This was an absolute lack of them, what we don't want to happen. So the puppy learned that us coming over was a great big, you know, fun fest for the puppy. It got
it's a dancing shindig.
Yeah, it got to jump and, you know, try to pull at our clothes and try to nip and just, it was chaotic. And the puppy's not being bad. He's innocent.
Being a puppy.
He's just being a puppy.
Of
It's
course.
like, oh, this is great. Nobody's stopping me. This is great. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I guess it's okay to do.
They're joining in on the fun. I can hear them. I can hear them getting excited too. They're barking.
And they're grabbing at me. So I guess this is this is fun.
Well, and that's a surefire way to teach your puppy to play keep away.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that is, it's such a slippery slope.
Yes.
When they learn to play keep away, when they learn that it's fun to play keep away. And some puppies already have that instinct deeply ingrained. Like when Levon came home, we recorded a podcast and I talked all about his inclination was, as soon as he saw me moving towards him, catch me if you can.
Right, yeah.
Because that was his favorite game to play with his litter mates. That and, you know, throwing them on the ground and biting them and, you know, all the crazy puppy stuff.
Yeah, so you figure puppies have limited games that they can play with each other. And, you know, two of the big ones are, you know, nip and wrestle, and the other one is try to catch me.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
those are two big puppy games.
Yeah, and when they get into your life and your home and they're like, you're my new friend, I want to play with you. We need to make sure that we give them ideas of what is appropriate for play.
Right.
And if we put them in those situations, it'll only take a couple of situations. And for some puppies, only one situation where they go, oh, that was really fun. I got to evade you. And I saw just how long your arms were.
Right.
And even the puppy who is like slow to turn onto that game, they start to recognize the signs.
Right.
Oh, I see your shoulders moving. You're coming for me. You know, it's not even that you're bent over to grab them.
Yes.
It's that first little twitch and they're like, ha, they do the play bow and they're like, yeah, the game on. Let's do it.
I think people would be amazed at how good dogs are at reading our body language.
Oh, incredible.
Yes.
Incredible. Absolutely. And the more you train and the more you train for sports and competitive obedience and things like that, the more you realize you need to be on your game with your body language as well, because the slightest little tick of your shoulders, you're sending your dog off course or you're throwing them out of heel position because they think you're turning. Like they are so astute at reading body language.
They are.
It's incredible. They're very talented.
Even when I've watched some old videos on when they'd have dogs in the circus. And, you know, they'd have like, you know, 6 poodles doing tricks. And you know, they were very good dog trainers. And, you know, they would just move one finger slightly. And the dog would know, okay, that one little finger means to drop dead and roll over.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, a different finger on the hand means something completely different. So, dogs are very astute at our body language.
Yeah, if you think about how they teach dogs to count.
Right, yes.
You know, like I've played with that trick before and the extinguishing quote unquote command is just me blinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I taught Jaden how to count. Like, so basically when I would say the word equals, he would start barking until he saw me blink. Right.
Yeah.
So he would see me blink. Nobody else would notice me blinking, but he was watching for it. Right.
Yes.
He learned through repetition.
Right.
This is the extinction cue. And this is where you get your reward for stopping that behavior. So I could do, 5 times 7 equals, although I wouldn't him bark 35 times.
Right.
Is that right? 5 times 7?
It's 35. Yes.
Yes. My math is on point.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. Yes. Well, I like watching dogs in movies and TV shows because you can often see them glance towards the trainer.
Yeah.
Like suddenly you'll see them look and they're not looking right at camera and then their behavior suddenly changes.
Yeah,
They've been given a new cue.
Yeah.
And it's usually a signal of some sort. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. They're so fabulous. Like dogs are amazing. If you can stay ahead of them and teach them how to use that energy and those skills
for good
instead of evil.
Right.
Woo!
Yes.
And it's just going to make your relationship that much better. Okay.
Right, yeah.
So let's talk. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
were you gonna say something?
No. I was going to say, so back on track.
Yeah.
So
that's where I was going too.
Yes.
So.
The next thing I noticed was the repetition of the dog's name with no response from the dog and it just being let go.
Yeah.
Yes. So there was, the dog was doing things it shouldn't and its name would be called over and over again, but nobody was following through. The dog was saying, yeah, I hear my name, I hear my name, I hear my name.
Yeah.
But it means nothing.
Well, and let's break that down a little bit because there's a lot of wrong in that. So first off, using the dog's name to scold, right?
Right.
Using the dog's name in any form of scold is something that we don't want to do.
Right.
And, sometimes it pops out of our mouth, especially those of us who have multi-dog households where you use the dog's name in that unintended space.
Right.
And it's not a good way to use their name.
No.
It teaches them that their name might mean intimidation is coming, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. If I do call my dog's name, my expectation is always turn and orient to me.
Right.
So I always try to make sure I have a nice light tone with my dog's response to name. If I'm scolding my dog, I use a scold.
Right.
I want it to be very clear. I do not use a scold in day-to-day life when I'm talking to my friends. They're never going to accidentally hear a scold.
Right.
So I have a very specific scold that I use for my dogs to say, hey, I don't like that thing you're doing.
Yes.
I would try so desperately to avoid using their name.
It's like with children, if they hear their middle name. So if I'm Ty Edward Eldridge, Ty's like, oh, I'm in big trouble. I'm, and some kids don't even go. It's like, I'm not going to go face the music. Yeah. So we don't want our dogs to have the same thing. Like,
exactly.
My name's bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is your middle name a bird?
My name?
Your middle name?
No, my middle name is not a bird.
Oh.
It's a month of the year, actually.
Christine May?
Yep.
Ooh, that was a good guess.
So beautiful.
That was a good guess. I don't think I've ever heard your middle name before.
I know yours is Marie.
We'll go with that. Sure.
It's not?
Shannon Marie Vilderson? No. Shannon Nadine.
Oh, Nadine. Oh, it's Val's is Marie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
You should check out the podcast that we did with Val 2 weeks ago. It was really, really good.
It was excellent. Yes.
Podcast.
Nadine.
Val Marie. Yeah, I'm a Nadine.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Look at us learning new things about ourselves.
Yeah, how about that, eh?
Yeah.
And Swanee and I have been friends for a long time now.
Well,
not just podcast buddies, but real friends.
Right? It shows that Shannon has never been bad because I would have had to use her middle name if she was
never
bad.
Scolded me with
Although
my
we have
name.
gotten in trouble. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
We stayed at a hotel once and they had to come and tell us to be quiet.
I'm still disappointed in that. It was like 10 p.m. on a Friday night in Toronto. Come on, guys. I'm usually in bed.
Rowdy.
I'm usually in bed long before that, so I can completely appreciate
We were overstimulated.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. There was lots of licorice flying around that hotel room. I remember
red
licorice and beer.
Yeah,
best combination. All right, so back to dogs. So we don't want to scold using their name.
Right.
We also find it's really important to have a good response to name.
Right.
That is my first line of defense when I call my dogs to get their attention is using their name. It's not a recall command. Usually it's not a here, here, here. It's not look at me. It's their name. That's what I say to get their attention focused back on me. And then from there, I can give them further instructions.
Right.
So when I say any of my dogs' names, I expect that response.
Yes.
So,
but if they've had rehearsals of ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it, what makes them think they do have to listen to it?
Yeah,
yes. So
absolutely.
we don't want them to say, you know what, I hear my name, don't wear it out.
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like consistent information with that is going to help the dog recognize that when it does hear its name, its job is to turn. And that happens through consistent training and repetition, right? We can't just assume that our dog's going to recognize at some point, oh, that's my name. No, we need to teach it. This is what I expect you to do when you hear this word. Because truly a dog doesn't understand the concept of a name anyways. We teach them that it is a significant word for them. And this is the expectation when you hear that. So if they're hearing, spot, 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 they're just learning to ignore our voices, right?
And usually too, now they're going further into the poor behavior we don't want them to do. So now we're missing our opportune timing to get in to fix, to get in to help them. So, they're going somewhere in the house you don't want them to go, and they're moving further and further and further. And
absolutely. And in those scenarios, when we have a puppy that is too green yet to have a solid response to name, what do you do?
Well, I'm not going to call the name unless I'm right there to make it happen. So just like, I think it's Jean-Luc Picard, Captain Jean-Luc Picard says, make it happen, or make it so. Make it so. That's what he said when they take off in their spaceship.
I'm singing the refreshments in my head now. Everybody knows that the world is full of stupid people.
That song,
because his idea is Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Jean-Luc
United
Picard.
Federation of Planets.
Yes, that's that song. Yes,
it's a good song. Yes. Anyways, blast from the past song.
Right. So with a brand new puppy, I have a house line on. So I can step on it to take control. And then I'm only going to call the puppy's name when I'm right there to help the puppy.
Yes. So if you're across the room and you want to get the dog's attention and you don't want to use their name because you're not ready to test it.
Right.
What would you do? Perfect.
Most puppies will, I think there's very few puppies that won't turn and go, huh? Because they learn that in the litter. Often that's how the breeder calls them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about nicknames quite a bit too. Having some nicknames that don't matter. They don't matter. I call Ned Noodle all the time. When I'm looking at him and he's giving me an expression and I want to say, oh, you're the sweetest boy, Ned. I don't want to say that because I don't want to overuse his name. So I say, oh, you're the sweetest boy, Noodle. And he wags at me all the same. He doesn't go, are you talking to me or are you talking to some other Noodle? Levon is the lovin's for everything.
Lovin's, yes.
He gets the lovin's. So, yeah.
That's
lovin's, funny. Loves. Yeah. I've actually decided that my release for him at hunt tests when I send him to go and get birds is going to be that name. Loves. So I say it with this like intensity so he knows this, okay, I can go now. So all the people around the line and the big men and the guns
in their camouflage wear,
going, loves. I can't wait to be made fun of. It'll be perfect.
Right, yes.
But yeah, we don't want to water down that name. It's such an important command. Just like any of our commands, right? If we expect our dogs to listen and respond to commands that we teach them, we need to make sure that we're not letting them fail with those commands.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean that there can't be mistakes. So don't get me wrong. There's no such thing as errorless learning.
No.
At some point you're going to make a mistake. The puppy's going to make a mistake. Someone's going to make a mistake.
Right. Yes.
And it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world.
No.
Yes.
But rehearsal is a very different thing from the occasional mistake. Right. So, all right. What else was this adventure? What else stuck out in this adventure to you?
Well, there was a lot of inconsistencies with nipping. So some people, the puppy wasn't allowed to nip. Some people allowed the puppy to nip when they were playing. So, I like to have consistency. We don't nip anybody.
Yeah.
But there were some people said, oh yeah, he's okay if he nips me. And other people didn't want to get nipped. Okay. And it was kind of a free-for-all a little bit at the time for the puppy.
Yikes, gotcha. So did the owners of the puppy, did they have an opinion in terms of the nipping? Did they say, oh, we really want it to stop?
No, they basically let whatever the person playing with the puppy do. So, yes. So,
okay. So were you getting nipped?
No, I didn't get nipped. And I interacted, I'd say, the most with the puppy. Okay. And I did not get nipped.
Okay, so how did that happen?
Well, I just didn't allow it to happen. Okay. I didn't play with the puppy in a way it would get riled up and start to nip.
Okay.
a couple of times I took the puppy's collar just to calm the puppy when I could see him becoming overstimulated.
Okay.
I had taken a few of the puppy's kibbles and had done a little bit of just few little trick training and little things with the puppy. So I think the puppy already viewed me as someone who kind of spoke their language. And yes.
Yeah.
And,
isn't that interesting?
right. Yeah. Like I didn't sit on the floor and let the puppy like dive all over me.
Okay.
So I think I'd sort of set a bit of parameters with the puppy very subtly. And I didn't set the puppy up for failure because I knew the puppy really hadn't learned not to nip yet.
Gotcha. Did you do any tugging with the puppy?
Yes.
Or was it, okay.
Yes.
All right. So how did that go?
That went really well. So, the puppy's very playful with toys. So I played some tug. We, did a few tossing the toy and encouraging the puppy to chase me and bring it back with some tug. I traded the dog some treats for it.
So you were up and moving then. When you said you weren't sitting on the floor.
Right,
you also weren't sitting on a chair or a couch.
No,
I
was up and moving with the puppy.
And sometimes too, like just that leadership body language of being taller than the puppy will work to your advantage when it comes to nipping for sure. So
one thing I did notice that happened at one point, the owner didn't want the puppy to have a specific toy. And they went to remove the toy from the puppy's mouth, and the puppy didn't want to give up the toy. So the puppy ran off and hid behind the couch with the toy, and the owner just went, oh, well, and sat down.
Oh.
So I thought, so the puppy learned that hanging on to the toy and then rushing off somewhere where the owner really couldn't reach them that well did work at the moment.
Oh, yeah. And that stuff like that, once learned, it's really hard for them to unlearn that. So this is where a house line comes in so handy, because if you can take control with the puppy, you can stop all these bad habits from setting in. You can basically say to the puppy, that's not going to work.
Right.
You can't do that with me. It's not going to work.
Right.
You need to do this instead. You need to, not run away from me when you have anything in your mouth. It's never going to work. And of course, we also teach skills while we're managing in day-to-day life, right? So in that scenario, we might have to take the toy away from the puppy, but we're also working on teaching a good out and drop it command. We're working on teaching things like taking the collar for calm. We're working on appropriate play styles. So we're not just saying, no, you can't. We're also filling in the holes on what you can do, which is so important for a dog who's trying to figure out what the rules are in this life. And you can almost see puppies sort of wheels turning when it comes to figuring out the rules, because they want to follow the rules.
They do. Yes.
Absolutely.
Puppies want to be right. Yeah. They want you to be happy with them.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yes. It's funny because this weekend I'm going to visit a friend with dogs, and we're having a little kind of luncheon get together at her house, and it'll be a very different environment, I know, because as dog trainers, we're very used to being in social situations and attending to our dog's needs while we're still being social.
Yes.
So if my puppy was being goofy, I would still probably be chatting with Shannon, but I would be addressing the goofy puppy.
Yes.
And Shannon would think nothing of me getting up off my chair to address
definitely
something.
I'd be judging you if you didn't.
Right, exactly. Yes.
No, I'm just
so
kidding.
I know it will be a very different get together where where the owner is addressing behaviors as they come up. And so I think that's one thing pet owners need to get used to and accept. It's not rude to your guest for you to suddenly stop talking about what you did last week and get up and address the behavior. That's good dog training.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and setting yourself up for success too, where you're not stuck divided between, okay, do I pay attention to my guests coming into the house, hang up their coats, etc., or do I pay attention to this puppy? None of us would have a puppy that didn't have any skills loose in the house when people were coming over to visit. Like, it would just be so automatically ingrained to go to the management piece before the dog had the skills. Right now, if you've got a puppy that doesn't know anything yet, they're not rehearsing the wrong things. And then a couple of months down the road, when that person comes to visit you again, now maybe the puppy's out, because now maybe the puppy can at least sit or stay on a place or stay off. Maybe you have a puppy that you've worked really hard right from the get-go on teaching them not to jump up. So here's a great opportunity to now sort of put that into action. I've got guests coming over if the puppy is ready for that. Every dog's a little bit different. So you really need to weigh What's the energy level like in this dog? What is the stimulation level going to be like? You know, some puppies, you'll be able to get away with that and they'll be able to contain themselves with those house manners. Some puppies, they're just going to be too stimulated to be able to tap into that knowledge of what they should do.
Right.
So they're not going to come out until the next visit with those people when they've had a couple more months of practice of this thing.
Right.
So
yes.
it's so important to look at the puppy as an individual and set yourself up for success in that.
Right.
So,
yes.
oh yeah, I'm thinking about the puppy hiding behind the couch with a toy.
Right.
And especially if you have little dogs that'll fit under things for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
That is going to be a danger. Some dogs, they're going to grow out of that because they can't fit under the couch anymore by the time they're, you know, allowed.
But they'll find other spots to go to.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or they'll just play that keep away game where
yes.
you're in constant motion because they are. So
right. Yes. I like my puppies to chew on toys near me as well. You know, a lot of puppies, their natural inclination from the litter would be, well, take this little bone and go to the far corner because a litter mate's going to steal it.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not a worry in the house. I'm not stealing my puppy's toys.
No.
And I don't want my puppies to think that I might, and they do have to move away from me. So that's why I like my long line or my house line. You know
absolutely.
what? I can give my puppy a bone and I can step on it and it's like, no, you're safe to chew that bone at my feet.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that from you. And if I do take it to examine it, I'm going to trade you for something, then you're going to get it back.
Yeah.
So I don't want the puppy to feel that they have to guard things from the humans.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually will do a lot of quote unquote forced snuggles with my puppies when they're young.
Right.
It's a tongue in cheek term, of course. I'm not forcing anything, but I'll have something that's a high value chew, like a bully stick, and they can hang out on my lap and they can chew on that bully stick. So they actually learn that my presence brings good things, right? Because I have this thing that I'm now letting you chew and letting you enjoy, and they usually do enjoy those bully sticks, something that's nice and safe to chew.
Yes.
But yeah, then it transitions to down at my feet, then it transitions to out and about wherever they want to be, but I'm always watchful of that sort of behavior. Like, are they hiding? Are they trying to hide, or are they confident that this is okay and they can chew this thing?
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely.
I think that helps too with a dog that's relaxed with things around their mouth. So, you know, the day your dog does pick up a mitten, they're not running off and hiding and you find a destroyed mitten later on.
Yeah.
You know, they'll bring right to your, you know, oh, you look down, oh, you got a mitten. Where'd you get that mitten? Like,
that's a nice mitten. I'll take that.
Right. Yeah. Let's trade for that mitten. And here's a toy you can play with. So we don't want a dog that grabs and hides.
No, definitely. I actually do a whole bunch of proactive games to make sure that my dogs do not ever think playing keep away with a thing is the right idea.
Right.
I like to walk my dogs off leash. I have 12 acres. I have trails. You know, there's lots of stuff for them to pick up all the time.
Right.
And I will teach a couple of things. I teach them that I can open their mouth and then I'll put a cookie in. So this is a really pleasant thing. Me opening your mouth, sweeping my hands through your mouth, not my hands, but my fingers through your mouth, and then you get a cookie for that. This is a really positive thing. I also teach them when they pick up things that don't matter, right? So maybe they're walking around the living room and they pick up one of their nylon bones and I go, what have you got? Bring that here. Let me see. And when they do, because of course, who cares? They're not going to care about that thing. I go, that thing is great. I might give them a cookie and then I give them the thing back. Right.
I've heard that you even show it to Kip sometimes.
Yeah, I do. I do. It's funny. If he's like, he'll be like into a movie or something like that. And I'm like, hey, look at this thing. Have you ever seen anything so wonderful before in your life? And he's like, he knows now. He just chimes right in. Oh yeah, that's really good. And he'll take it and he'll look at it too. And then hand it back to me. And the whole time the dog's like, ooh, they're making this big deal out of this thing.
Yeah.
And of course, anticipating getting
now
it right
I get
back.
it back. Yeah.
But then when I go out there in the real world, I start doing it with things like leaves and twigs, right? Because of course I have sporting breeds. They want to pick up everything in their mouth. I mean, most dogs want to pick up stuff anyways, but sporting breeds love to pick up and carry things. So when they do that, oh, bring that here, let me see it. And I take the stick and I give them a cookie sometimes for it. And then I give them the stick back, right? Because it's probably, unless it's a harmful stick, but really if it's like a little twig
one of those harmful sticks.
One of those harmful sticks. I don't like my dogs to run with big sticks. It always makes me nervous because especially if they hold it like a cigar and then they
hit a
potentially
tree
hit
or
a hill
something like that,
or like a little high point in the ground and it stabs
sticks
them in
can
the throat.
be dangerous. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always get a little bit nervous about that. But yeah, like the twigs and whatnot that they pick up, or they pick up a leaf. And I've had many countless times that they've picked up a bone on a trail.
Right.
They've picked up, like, I have a picture of Levon at probably about 8 months with his first headless bird that he picked up in the bush. I've got feral cats all over my property, so there's a lot of things like that they come into. There's been bunny fur and entrails pile on one of my trails now for a good 10 days or so. Right. And I use it every time. I use it to help train through the leave it, because of course they're interested in that stuff.
They'd love to roll in that.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, they just want to eat it all. Oh my goodness. So I use those things. I know it's there. Right. I know we're coming up on it, right? And both of them, now that the novelty of this thing is worn off, both of them now get to that spot and look at me. Oh, is it time for a cookie? And now we're past the point of cookies for it. So I just go, yay, you're such a good dog. Yes. And I might randomly reward them at some random point in the future. But right now they've had more than enough cookies in that scenario that they're already looking for the value elsewhere, right? Yes. We don't want that thing on the trail anymore. What's mom got? But yeah, I like... There's been so many times that they've brought me things that I would rather they not finish eating.
Like frogs or...
Oh, the frogs. Oh, my goodness. The tadpoles right now that are like...
Oh, yeah.
They're kind of like shriveled up and floating sort of in the ice. Yeah. And I keep checking them every day because I'm really not sure what happens with these cold-blooded creatures. Right, yeah. I'm learning a lot about tadpoles and frogs living on this property. Yeah. And they're so fascinating. An army of frogs. There's an army of frogs that live on my property.
Is that what they call a group of frogs? An army?
An army. There was an army or something else. There was a second option, but I chose to adopt army.
The army of frogs.
The army of frogs, and you picture all the frogs in their little hats.
Right. And they are green. They are green already.
I guess
quite camouflaged.
Yeah. Well, and come spring when they do actually move. Right now they're still tadpoles in various shapes, but I have a little overflow pond that the sun hits so nicely and they sunbathe in it. So they basically just dangle. Right. Like they'll have their front legs out and their heads sort of above the water, and then the rest of them is dangling behind or underneath, and it's like, oh, that looks so cozy.
Well, you could join them. You could join them in that pond.
It's a little too small for me to really dangle, but I could go in the bigger pond and dangle. I've only been in it with hip waders. Right. It's not really the kind of water you want to swim in if you're a human. Yes. I'm happy with the dogs swimming in it, but with all the tadpoles, and I've seen some leeches and things like that, it's kind of like,
how about crayfish or anything like that?
Yeah. So I had that picture last year of a rusty crayfish that apparently they were becoming invasive in Ontario, and there was this... It looked like a little tiny lobster. So, of course, I had to look it up and see what it was. And yay, Google Lens identified it for me as a rusty crayfish. It was empty at that point or dead. Like, it only had one claw in the front. Something had its way with it. So, it was safe at that point. But I think actually one of the dogs found it. And that's why I came in contact with it. Because I was like, is it going to bite my dog? Are those close claws going to close my dog? What's happening here? Yep. But yeah, it was no longer. It was no longer.
It's so interesting. You're finding so many things out there.
Oh my gosh, I just love it so much. It's so cool. And yesterday, I'm on obviously on a migratory path for birds, and they're coming back yesterday. And I took this video of there was a whole bunch of snow geese and Canadian geese.
Oh wow,
yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen so many snow geese. Yeah. I assumed they were snow geese. At first I thought they were swans, but I don't think they were. I think they were snow geese.
We're not migrating right now, Shannon. I can speak with my brethren.
Boom. Yeah. Love that. That was so good. Well said. Okay.
Oh, back. Yes.
Yeah. So, yes. Back to this. Before I got off on the tangent of the tadpoles, what was I saying?
We were talking about dogs taking something and feeling that they have to go and hide from us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to get ahead of that. So the sweeping in their mouth, the open mouth insert cookie, the bring it here, let me see. All of these things just teach the dog to be cooperative. Right. You know, I pick up a headless bird and you tell me to bring it here. Okay, sure. Yeah. Why not? I've done this a million times before, and it's always ended well for me. So of course, when they bring me the headless bird, they usually get I'll do a little treat toss on the ground if I have treats on me, or if not, then I'll find something else to, pick up a little twig and throw it off in the bush, which of course excites both tollers. And then when they're not looking, I toss the headless bird.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Fly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, it didn't fly this time. How come? Yeah. Darn cats. Anyways.
And just another thing too is you need to be aware of your puppy and the environment and what's going on all the time.
Yeah.
I like to be one step ahead of my puppy. So I
try to be at least three or four, but I usually settle for one because that's all I get.
So if we had a brand new puppy here, I could very easily carry on this conversation with Shannon, but I'd be watching the puppy. And in my mind, I'd be thinking, what is that puppy about to do?
Yeah.
I see the puppy looking at the electrical cord. What is his next step? I better get up now to interfere. So I don't want things to happen and then me to react after they're happening.
Absolutely.
The best timing in dog training is to catch the puppy in the act of thinking about it.
Yes.
That is the most clear and the most effective moment.
Yeah.
So my quick reactions to the very beginning of an error is going to help the puppy.
Yeah, you bet. And that all comes back to that reward value again, right? If they get to have the experience of starting to chew the electrical cord, that's reinforcing for them, right? If they do it for half a second and you catch them quickly, it's not as bad as if they get right into the chew, but either way, it's still rewarding for them.
Right.
And they probably got it in their mind, even if you interrupt them that quickly, I might go back and try that again.
Yes.
That was interesting. That was entertaining.
Right.
We don't want to start our relationship with our puppy by having these like ongoing negative conversations with them though. So ideally, we set up a scene so that there's not electrical cords that are within view. Ideally, we set up a situation where we're going to be able to beat the puppy to the punch on some of these things, right? As soon as we see them starting to sniff the table leg, for example, I would be, hey, pup, over here. I'd be encouraging my pup away from that thing so that they didn't start into the chew portion of it.
Yes.
I don't want that value.
It means a responsible adult always has to have an eye on the puppy.
Yeah.
Yes. And so don't put it on just one person too. One person can watch the puppy for the first 15, then have another person watch the puppy for the next 15.
And let the puppy have a break.
Right. And if nobody wants to watch the puppy, then puppy can go away in their crate. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes too, bringing the puppy out and doing something calming with the puppy is going to serve you so well in the future. So I personally, I don't like a lot of roughhousing in my house. So for example, with young Levon, he's been learning consistently that no, you're not playing with Ned in the house. If I invite play, it's a different thing because I start the game, but I do not want my dogs wrestling in the house. There's too much danger, right? Sharp corners. I've got open stairways on both floors. Like I just, my brain goes to very paranoid places
and
too.
It's just
but
chaos.
It's just, it's chaos. I like quiet in my house. When we go out and about, you guys have at it.
Right. Yeah.
Have a blast. I've got 12 acres for a reason. So we can all run, we can have fun, we can explore. We all get out there and wrestle.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, setting the tone is such an important thing, right? I might have guests over and I might bring my puppy out and do that snuggle thing, right? I was talking about with the chew, get my puppy used to the idea that there's multiple people around and this is not a concern for your chew. Nobody wants your chew. Your chew is yours. I'm providing it to you.
Right.
Just setting the scene with something calm is going to help as well.
Or bringing them out and doing a few little obedience skills or tricks.
Yeah.
It shows the puppy that, there's all these people here. It sure looks like a party. But we still listen in the party.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you were to put them down and just let them do their own thing, a lot of the times they do get into that party and that overstimulation mode, and that's going to make nipping worse. And then there's going to be accidents, which brings me to my next question.
Right, yes.
How did that go with this puppy?
There was only one accident in the house. I did notice the puppy was going towards the door. And I thought the puppy needs to go out. But I'd already mentioned a couple of times when I'd noticed the puppy needed to go out.
Oh, okay.
I think I see it early, and that's just through our experience.
For sure.
It just, we've seen so many puppies.
It's ingrained in us to watch for these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't want to pester them again, that the puppy needs to go out. And sure enough, it peed on the floor. And I thought, I guess I should have. Yes. So, they weren't, they were too busy talking and entertaining, and they missed some cues.
Yeah.
Yes. So
it's hard. It's hard. We want to share our puppy and we want the puppy to share in our life, but it's like letting a toddler choose their own adventure when you're busy, focused on other things.
Right.
Chances are something is going to go wrong in that scenario. And in this case, of course, it's an accident on the floor and the wrong message for the puppy.
Yes.
So
I also noticed too, at one point, they were trying to get the puppy's focus, but they couldn't. The puppy was kind of running around crazily. And, instead of going to the puppy and taking the collar and getting some calmness, they went and got a bait pouch and strapped it on.
Ooh.
full of treats. And suddenly the dog was like, whoop, thank you for the bribe, and ran over. And I thought,
oh, yeah. So it's being situational. This is a great way of teaching your dog that you only matter when you strap on that bait pouch.
Right.
So
yes.
It's really important that we don't do things like that. You know, if I have the bait pouch on to begin with, that's one thing, because then it becomes just a generalized thing with the puppy and it's not noticeable. Right. If it's missing, and my dog learns that there's a set of rules with that, and then it suddenly appears and my puppy learns that there's a set of rules with that, I'm basically creating a dog who is only going to listen when I strap on that bait pouch.
Yes.
So you either need to have it on beforehand or you need to put your food in your pocket. Right. I always, when I have a puppy, I always have food somewhere close and handy. I always have it there so that I can reward the behaviors that I like. Right. But I'm not ever saying to the puppy, here, I'm going to bribe you for this thing, and now I want you to listen. Right. Yes. Right? There's a small period of time where we spend showing the puppy any new behavior, right? So response to name, for example. If I'm just teaching my dog to respond to their name, the first thing I'm doing is I'm saying their name and feeding them a cookie. Because the first thing I want to do is I want to teach my dog that that name is a significant word that they should pay attention to. It brings valuable things. And then when my dog gets to a point where I've loaded the name, they know it has some value. Now I'm going to let the puppy get distracted a little bit. I'm going to say their name, and then within a second, I'm going to show them that food and turn them back towards me. So I'm teaching my puppy what to do. But once I get past that point where I think, okay, I'm ready to start testing this puppy now, I don't want that food to appear until they've done their job. Right? So at first, I show them what I need them to do, and then I start testing in reasonable situations. So it might be an empty living room at that point where I just call my dog's name. And as soon as my puppy turns and shows me that they're capable of that, now I want to reward. But I'm setting myself up in a way that if they don't turn, if they make a mistake and I go, oh, failed the test, okay, we're not ready for that yet, I can very quickly make this situation right by being close enough to my puppy that I then repeat the name, show them the food, make them turn, or repeat the name. Maybe I give them a little poke on the bum, right? Just a little poke that says, hey, you, I was talking to you. And when they turn, dog just jumped through the studio and hit the mic. No, that was me. But when they turn, now I can have a big party with them and I can add value to the situation and I'll reassess. Okay, I wasn't quite ready to test. Where am I at in terms of the teaching of this command? Right. Yeah. So food is a very misused tool in dog training. Absolutely. And people tend to use it as a bribe often. And then that's one of our most common questions is, my dog doesn't listen to me unless he sees me get food. Yeah. And then right then we know it's been used wrong. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And there is definitely a lot of nuance to how we use food. But one thing is for certain is we want to be able to explain why we gave that cookie. Right. Yes. Why did you give him that cookie? Oh, because I'm supposed to give him a cookie is not a good idea to try to figure out. Yes. It's like if you asked your children to wash the dishes as a chore and they don't wash the dishes. And they get an allowance anyway. And they still get their $5. Yeah. Yeah. The child's like, no. Yeah. Not my house. Right. Or you'll get kids too that don't want to do chores unless you give them $5. Yeah. It's like, no, I'm not doing that for free. It's like, show me the money. Right. Yeah. Show me the money. Yes. Yes. So it's like, you give me $20 and I'll clean up my room. It's like, no. Yeah. That's not how this works. Right. Yeah. So exactly. We don't want to fall in that trap with our dog. It's like, here's the kibble. Do it. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. We very quickly move away from that phase where we're showing to teach. And as soon as we can, to be honest. Yes, and then we continue to build value for the thing, but not in a way that makes the dog look for the food first, right? In a way that makes us get the behavior because the dog is hoping that there will be a reward. And then that sets us up to be able to randomize our rewards later on down the road, right? Whereas if the dog is always reliant to see the cookie, you never get to the randomization point. Never. And you never get that power of the dog gambling, right? Oh, am I going to get a cookie for it this time? It really strengthens the behavior because of that desire to gamble. Is this humans, dogs, etc.? We all love to gamble, right? We all love to play that slot machine and take our chances, right? Yeah, because what we get out might be more exciting than when we go to the bank machine and we say, I want $20 and we get $20, right? Yeah, hopefully, yeah. And it's like, that wasn't exciting. I put the 20 in my wallet and it's a non-event. I probably am never going to think about that event again in my life. But if you think back to the times you've been to a casino and you've heard that ding, 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 and like all the, maybe it's a ticket, depending on what casino you go to. Sometimes it's just a ticket that comes out now. There's no coins. But I don't go to a casino often, so who knows? Maybe it's a brain implant now, and I don't even know that. But
or even it's just like if you're out practicing basketball, shooting hoops. You throw it, you miss. You throw it, you miss. You throw it, it goes in.
Yeah.
Oh, you have that sense of accomplishment.
Yes.
I did it. I got a hoop. Let's try it again. And I missed. I missed. Oh, I got it in. Hooray!
Yay.
Like you're driven by those little wins, and so are our dogs. They're driven by those wins, those rewards.
Absolutely. And the other nice thing too is that you can actually use different rewards down the line, right? You don't always have to be reliant on food. I have all sorts of rewards that I use that are not something I carry with me. I might run away and play with my dog. If it's winter, I might pick up a snowball and throw it. My dogs love that. Oh my goodness. There's all sorts of things that I will do as a rewarding thing that my dogs love that aren't food
Honda
or
loves
toys.
getting his butt scratched.
Yeah, Ned's a big butt scratch guy.
So I reserve that more as a reward. Now that he's old, of course, he can get his butt scratched whenever he wants.
Of course.
But when he was younger, I wouldn't just sit and watch TV and pat his butt, like scratch his butt. It's like, no, that's a reward.
Yep.
So you know what? You do a great recall, scritch, 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 scritch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm not going to mindlessly pat. I'm going to make sure that, things are done that I can use as rewards.
Absolutely. So as you're doing your dog training, if you think, oh, why did I give that cookie? It's food for thought.
Right.
Good food for thought.
Yes.
We should always be able to explain why. Oh, because that one was faster than the last one. Because that one was exactly what I wanted. Why did I give a jackpot? Because I wanted to leave an impression on that rep.
Right.
Because that was the perfect rep, right?
Yes.
A jackpot is a little extra reward.
Yes. Or the dog ignored a distraction. It was like, wow, the dog held his sit as that bunny hop by.
Yeah.
That gets a treat because that was good.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So did they do any real training once they slapped on the bait pouch, or was it just sort of like the visual to get the puppy to tune in a bit more?
You know what? That's a good question. I think it was the visual.
Okay.
I think it was the visual. The odd treat might have came out, but I think it was more a visual. Yes. Yes.
So really going down that road.
Right.
That road to ruin. No, that sounded so dramatic. All right. So another question that I have, what was the equipment like on this puppy? I know you said there was no house line.
A very loose collar.
Okay.
A very loose snap collar.
Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Yes.
So in your estimation, if you needed to take control of the puppy with that collar, would you have been able to?
Well, I definitely would have been able to get my full hand underneath it to easily grab it. But the collar was way too loose.
Okay.
There would be a lot of movement. Yeah. When a dog has a loose collar on, they feel all loosey-goosey and they'll move around in that collar. So it doesn't give you a good feeling of control. If I did have to quickly take control of that puppy, I would have had to grab the collar and probably twist a bit to make it snugger.
Gotcha.
To get that stillness on the dog's neck.
Yeah, we get a lot of alligator rolls with loose collars and things like that, especially with nipping puppies, right? They go, oh, you think you can take control of me? I'm going to flop over on my back where I have the advantage.
Yes, yeah. Oh, the puppy did flop on his back and get some good nips in on a person. So, yes,
dear.
It did use the alligator roll tactic.
Yeah, they get good at those tactics pretty quick. And again, it's not a puppy being bad. It's a puppy being a puppy. They just don't understand that these rules are different than the rules were with my litter mates.
Right.
And we're not doing them any favors by letting this happen, right? We're just prolonging the agony for all of us. We're prolonging the agony with those needle teeth. I mean, at 4.5 months, it's probably got a lot of adult teeth going.
Yes, there was.
The
puppy definitely was teething. I could see there was gaps, and I could see there was tiny little baby canines still, but some bigger molars coming in. And yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It's so sad when they grow up.
Right. But overall, I had to say this is a nice puppy.
Good.
A very nice puppy, and a lot of good things happened too. Like I saw a lot of just good behavior from the puppy.
Okay.
Like they've been doing some work with the puppy. So I feel that the puppy's definitely on the right track.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely on the right track.
That's good.
Yes. But there are little things that, could always be improved upon.
Yeah.
Yes. And the biggest one I saw was the inconsistency.
Yeah.
Just not being consistent with the puppy. It's like the child that goes to, grandma and grandpa's and gets away with murder and then comes home and has to follow the rules.
Yeah. And they learn. There's two sets of rules. There's the rules at grandma and grandpa's, and there's the rules at home.
Right, yes. So I think this puppy was learning that when people are there, there's different rules that if they are just them by themselves. Because I'm sure if it's just them that they get on the puppy for things. Gotcha. But I think they were just uncomfortable in the social circle, ignoring their guests to deal with the puppy. And I think that's the biggest message. Yeah. Yes.
So was there any point where they thought, okay, this puppy's overstimulated, I need to put him in his crate for a rest, or was the puppy out the whole time?
Puppy was out the whole time. It eventually flaked out on the floor and had a good nap. So that was nice. Yes. Yeah. But I think often people just, you're trying to be social. Yeah. And you're trying to let the puppy be social. And it's often not the best for the puppy.
This just made me think of a new business.
What is it?
Social dog training.
Right.
So we will, if you feed us and give us drinks, we'll come to your house and we'll be the socialization people, so that you can actually work your puppy.
Right, yes.
And we won't be offended. Right. We won't be like regular guests. We'll go to your fridge and we'll take our food out ourselves while you're busy with your puppy. So there you go.
Yes, and I think so many guests too say, it's okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And so I think you get falling into that, and you feel almost rude to say, well, it matters to me, when Uncle Joe is saying, it's okay.
You do. Well, and I remember going through this with my first dog, Quincy, and thinking like, she's a Rottweiler, this Rottweiler puppy jumping on my neighbor next door, and the neighbor going, it's okay, I don't mind, and thinking like, I don't really know this neighbor well, and this is one of our first interactions. Yes. We were fairly new in the survey at that point, and I don't want to be rude, but at the same time, like, this dog's going to be big.
Right.
Like, I don't want this dog jumping on you. But at the time, I didn't have the constitution to say, oh, I'm sorry, I do mind, so I'm going to stop this right now. Or I'm going to, or just give me a second, let me place her into a sit, whatever the case may be. I didn't know enough at that point. She was my first dog. I just started.
I think just I'm forming things in my brain because, these are our friends that we're probably going to be visiting more often. And I think the next time I go over, I'm going to say, you know what, if you need to dog train, stop and dog train. I understand, as a dog trainer, I understand what you're doing. Yeah. And if
I'm not offended.
Not offended. So
I'm actually impressed.
Right. Yeah. So I think, and then that's a good thing. If you're visiting somebody with a new puppy, let them know that, you know what, whatever your rules are, I want to stick to them.
Yes.
And if you have to stop and interrupt, or you want me to stop something, let's do it. It takes a village to raise a puppy.
Absolutely. And, to take that one step further, I just did with Levon. Anytime somebody came over, if they weren't a dog training person, I gave them very clear instruction beforehand or as they were coming in on what I expected from them and what I would appreciate them doing. And I didn't get any pushback from anybody in that scenario, and everybody was great about saying, okay, sure, and then actually asking questions after. So as a dog owner, as a puppy owner, don't hesitate to tell your guests, hey, we're just in training. He's learning all sorts of things, and I'm hoping that he doesn't jump on anybody today. So this is what I'm going to do to try to make sure that I facilitate that, and I would appreciate your help by doing this.
Right. Yeah.
And like get the instructions to the people beforehand. And most people are like, other than Uncle Joe, Uncle Joe can be a little bit of a pain. He thinks he knows it all.
Yes.
But most people are going to be like, oh, sure, I'll help train your puppy. And then they feel invested too. Yes. And they're probably going to like your dog even more as time goes on.
And they'll be proud of your dog. Yes. They'll be like, oh, I helped get the puppy there. Yeah.
And the next time they come and visit and the puppies learn so much more and you can impress them with all the things. Oh, yeah.
Right. Yes.
That seems so much nicer.
Right. Like I would rather have, it's cute to have a little puppy run up and jump all over you, but I would love to have a little puppy come up and sit and shake a paw instead. Yeah. Like that's even better.
Oh, how adorable.
I don't want a puppy jumping on me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
or if you taught them to count the guests.
Right.
How many people are here?
Right.
Although I don't know how you work equals into that sentence. So I'll have to think about logistics there a bit, but
right. Yes.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Instructor Swanee.
Happy training.
Happy training.
The McCann Dogs Podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at mccanndogs.com. Happy training!